company, but thank you so much, guys, for having me. My name is Jake Welsh, executive creator of Dept. So what is today about? We've got 30 minutes to try and provide as much value as possible for you guys today. And as a creative director, it goes without saying, my topic today will be not only about creating, but also about brands and businesses and how we have to move forward in what is a new world. And that's how we describe it here at Dept. So as one of the fastest growing digital agencies, we get asked a lot of questions, from small questions to more technological questions to quite complex questions. But what are the most common questions that seems to crop up, especially over here in the UK, and especially when we are moving into such, is quite a common question at the minute. And what that question is how do you keep up with consumer advancement? And it's not only clients that are asking us that question, but it's also the creative teams, the technical teams, our strategy teams. You know, how do we keep up with the advancements of what and what consumers expect? Now, it's not a straightforward question now, because the answer is quite different and versatile based on who we're speaking to. But over the past several months, we've been working through a number of different profiles and projects and kind of theories to really understand how we can best articulate what we do into a response that today you can take some value away and hopefully apply that to your business, your own way of working, or your own agency. Because it's really important that every business and every individual at the minute is moving forward, because we do live in a world now, and digital has become such an important part of the world in which we live. So the things that we need to come to accept before we start to address that question is that consumers really do live reality. We can order a taxi through our phones and it can be here within minutes. We can order a pizza and it can be here within half an hour. You know, we can order on Amazon at 12 o'clock and the item is with us by 2 o'clock. And because of this, consumers' demands have advanced and their expectations have advanced, and the way in which they expect things from companies and brands has advanced. And many companies look at this and they panic and kind of stare at this in the face and think, you know, what are we supposed to do? How can we move forward with these demands? And it's not a case that you have to change the business wholly. It's more a case of we change our approach in order to keep up with these consumer demands. And the way that we call this, and the way that we answer this question of how do we keep up with consumer advancement, is this topic in this headline. Human first creativity, crafted by data. That is how, as an executive creative director at Dept, that is how I respond to that question. The way we keep up with consumer advancement is through human first creativity, crafted by data. Now, there's quite a lot in there, and I'm quite a lot, you know, to digest in one hit. But we start to kind of compartmentalize that and break that down. What does this really mean? Now, the word data is used everywhere at the minute. And I'm not a huge fan of the word data, especially as a creative, because I think it's quite scientific, it's quite intimidating, it's quite technical. And data at the minute has quite a negative connotation, that we know that data's out there and our data's out there, but we don't really know what it is. So it's not a great word at the minute. But if we break it down, it really does start to allow us to understand what we mean by human first creativity, crafted by data. If we kind of turn it into a more empathetic approach and we look at people, as people, we carry a series of profiles and characteristics of ourselves, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously. And what we carry within our profile is a series of feelings and behaviors and habits, emotions and desires and ambitions and worries, values as individuals, and also impulse. That's an amazing mix of items to walk around with as an individual. But essentially what we call is data. All of that kind of combined into a profile is data. And this is what companies all over the world, whether it be tech companies or kind of retail companies, everybody wants this data, because allowing us to have that data informs a lot of our decisions. As a business, when we start to gather data and we start to understand our data, it allows us to define our strategies intelligently. Instead of going broad and wide net, it allows us to be specific with our approach. Having this data also allows us as a business to think smarter by provoking new ways of thinking for consumers. As a business, having this data allows us to build a lot of impactful and memorable human experiences. It allows us, more importantly, to stay ahead of the consumer's needs, because if we have this data and we know what your ambitions are, your dreams are, your worries are, we as a business can be ahead of your needs before you even know what they are. And because of that, we can connect with the consumer via their emotions and their desires. So the world has changed so significantly in the fact that as a marketing campaign, we would hope that our campaigns would meet the right people and connect in the right ways. But now, because we can access data, we're able to articulate our campaigns and our strategies in a lot more articulated ways, which is incredible. And it's a turning point for the world. It's a turning point for businesses that is also, if it's used in the right way, is a remarkable, remarkable outcome for both brands and for consumers alike. Now that we know what data is, and to be fair, we are data. It's that whole analogy of, you're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. We are data. We are the people that make data, whether we fit or we don't. It's the profile of who we are. So if we think about our question of how do we keep up with consumer advancement, the answer lies in the data. Having the data allows us to create creativity and campaign messaging around our data. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that into 3 small, nimble case studies. So hopefully it can give you guys a real context of what we're talking about here today. Now, the first talk about is something that's actually quite topical and relevant because it's absolutely freezing here in Manchester today, is thermostats. Not the most creative of briefs, certainly not the most glamorous of products, but it being October and it's approaching very cold temperatures here in the UK, we're going to start to interact with our thermostats a bit more, whether they're in our homes or we're looking to buy one or we're looking to improve what we've got. We've all got one. We just don't think about them very much because they're not that glamorous. Now, in the market, there's a number of different thermostats out there. And as a consumer, I'm going to be looking at the market to say what is right for me. As a business, I need to be sat there thinking, how do I become the brand that they choose? Now, in days of old, I could drop my price, offer free delivery, and I'm pretty much guaranteed a good connection with that consumer. It's a manipulation technique. And brands that focus on manipulation are the brands that focus on transaction. Transaction is good, but transaction is short-lived. On the other hand, we've got companies that are focused on data, which is far more eternal. It's focused on relationship over transaction. And an easy way to take away from that is business is transactional, relationships are eternal. And when you think about your next step as a business, think about what your next step ambition is. Is it transactional or is it relationship driven? And when you're a consumer and you're watching an ad or watching the television or out and about and you're being targeted, are they targeting you through emotion or transaction? Are they manipulating you to make a decision or are they connecting with you on a human level? Let's see how 2 brands work here. We've got Heat Miser and we've got Nest. Now I want you to spend 10 seconds to digest what Heat Miser have to say. This is their chance as a business to speak to you as a consumer and say, for you. Digest that homepage for a second now. Now let's take away the key 4 or 5 elements Heat Miser has to say to grab our attention. Okay? Point 1, it's got illuminated keys. 2, it's got a proximity sensor. Number 3, it's ultra slim and it's light. And number 4, it offers free next day delivery. So if we break down what those elements are, it's 3 product-related selling points and a manipulation technique in there, just in case you don't want to buy it. So we're very transactionally focused there. Now, if we flip that around and we look at Nest, let's spend 8 to 10 seconds here to digest what Nest have to say. Very different interface, very different look and feel. Let's digest what Nest want to say to us in this first 8 to 10 seconds. Now, what did Nest say? What Nest said, point 1, Nest, we remember when you wake up. 2, we also remember when you get home. We learn your family's movements and we know the seasons so you don't have to. So when you get up at 6 a.m., we've got that temperature just right. When you get home, we've not burnt your energy during the day, but we've got that temperature nice and warm. So when you get back in from the office, your home feels, ready for you. We know your family's movements. We know when you get up and go to sleep. We know the seasons. We know we're moving into autumn. So what we did is we adjusted the temperature for you. Now, if I was to ask you the question, which one would you purchase? Obviously, this is kind of a virtual room. If I was to ask you the question, which one would you purchase? 90% of a room right now, if I said Heat Miser or Nest, would raise their arms to Nest. Product that they would purchase out of what they've been told and what they have seen. Yet the remarkable thing about that is that Nest was 4 times the price. And at this stage, price didn't even come to your mind. Price wasn't even a consideration, because as consumers, we're advancing with our demands of what we expect from brands that we engage with. Now, what Nest did was remarkable. It sold exactly the same type of product, essentially upping and downing your temperature. It mounts to your wall, but they dived into their data in order to create human-centered design. They understood that people's behaviors were that they lived in busy environments. Their habits was that they were more than forgetful. People hate the word energy. Am I paying too much? Am I paying too little? Should I switch? I don't even know what switching means. My values is that, my concerns, my bills are. I just want somebody to take care of this for me. And Nest did that. Nest did that through its messaging. It didn't talk about how lightweight it was. It didn't talk about that it lights up. It says, don't worry. We are here. We'll take care of the rest. And it didn't even use a manipulation technique to get there. No mention of free delivery. No mention of reduced price. No one free. Just honest, empathetic content. And that is what consumers start to look for. So we had Heat Miser as one option and Nest as the other. The message is what drove us to our outcome. Now, let's take a different approach. Now, thermostats aren't the most creative product in the world, although to be fair, I do love Nest. Google bought them for around 4 billion 5 years ago. Let's talk about something that's different. Let's talk about drinks. Now, Johnnie Walker is a hugely big name, popular brand, especially in Europe. It's one of the most prestigious whiskey brands that you can buy. Beautiful product, beautiful brand, very premium. It associates itself with things like Formula One, which sits alongside brands like Rolex. It's really positioned itself quite high up there. But that comes with its challenges. Johnnie Walker as a brand does have challenges, as all brands do, as all companies do. What Johnnie Walker is finding is that it seems to only embrace an older demographic. By choice, it is associated with very premium brands. As I mentioned, Formula One, Rolex, it'll sit in places like Selfridges. It's positioned itself quite premium. It's great, but when people associate with premium, if they're not premium themselves or don't like buying premium products, that's not for me. The product is seen for somebody who really values and understands whiskey. If you're going to spend, £100 to £150 plus on a bottle of whiskey, you're going to hope that you like it. So it's for someone who drinks whiskey and knows whiskey. So the way people perceive Johnnie Walker is that it's not for the casual, inexperienced drinker. Now, essentially what that results in is that Johnnie Walker is struggling to engage with younger audiences. To have older audiences is great, but younger audiences are needed as part of the replenishment of the business cycle. Now, at this stage, Johnnie Walker has a number of options. It has three options primarily. It accepts this market position and we say, okay, getting younger audiences, but you know what, we're Johnnie Walker, we're going to be okay. The downside of that is it means they're not moving forward. They're not thinking about tomorrow's world. Now, what this also means is that they have the option to change their core product line. They have the option to sit down and say, let's develop a new product. Johnnie Walker Junior maybe. Johnnie Walker Cooler, something that's younger, smarter, savvier. But really what that does is it affects their equity and it affects their values for the brand that they built before. It's like Rolex bringing out a daytime watch or an everyday watch for £400. It's something too accessible. Wouldn't happen. Now, on the other hand, what you've got is the option to drive different messaging on billboards and out of home and in journals and magazines. They change their wording from sophistication and premium to it's a bit younger, a bit savvier, a bit more street smart. But the downside of them doing that, they then alienate their existing audience base. So it affects what they've built and it affects their relationships with their existing audiences. So really, Johnnie Walker's in a difficult position here. Where do you go? And the best answer to that, and the best way we answer that at Dept, is human-centered design. So what are Johnnie Walker best doing? They're best looking into their data. Let the data drive their decision. Now, if we look at the feelings of the younger audiences and the markets that they're not attracting, the problems that they face is the fact that behaviors, people are intimidated by whiskey brands. People's habits when they're drinking alcohol or any sort of beverage is that they stick to what they know. Their emotions at this stage is that they're kind of overwhelmed by choice, but their desire is that they want to be cool. These are people drinking and whiskey has got a great connotation and ring to it, but people worry that they spend all this money on this item, but they actually don't like it. So Johnnie Walker has an ability here to look at this data the same way Nest did, people around energy, and say, what can we do to meet the demands and expectations of our consumers? So what was that result? Now, it is virtual, it might not play smoothly, but hopefully you can take some of the messages out of this. It's about 1.5 minutes long now. This is what Johnnie Walker did.
Let's talk about the rules of whiskey. They say you should drink it neat, never ever with a mixer. You're only allowed a splash of water, or if you must, a single cube of ice. They say it's best enjoyed alone. Take it seriously. Swirl it around. Let it breathe. Whiskey is a man's drink. By an open fire. Wait until it's old. way to your own. And when it comes to whiskey, it should be drunk in silence. You know what they say about rules? Make your own rules. New Clubman from Hay Club.
Now, what Johnnie Walker did was remarkable. They developed a new product called Haig, which many people to this day don't even know is part of the Johnnie Walker group, because people perceive Haig as a completely different brand message. Number one, it was endorsed as David Beckham's product. Anything with David Beckham on it, I will admit, is cool, okay? I want it. I want to be Beckham. Give me that drink, okay? That is how our minds work. The second part is the wording in their campaign message. From the hilltops to the cityscapes, rules are to be broken, break the mold. They are self-aware. They are clicking on the elements of profile that we know you don't want to be sat in the hills. You want to be sat in your cool apartment in the city of London or Manchester or Berlin. You want to break the bottle design. It looks like a perfume bottle. The whiskey can't be seen. The brown liqueur is hidden. It looks like something you'd put on your dressing table. And the videography and the content solution was all around parties and youth and popularity. Now, the amazing thing about this is that what Haig did was they didn't affect the Johnnie Walker brand in any way, shape, or form. They used their data and made the decision to develop something new and entirely different. But what was genius? What was the best part about this and the intelligence behind this? Haig became a pathway to Johnnie Walker. Haig was priced lower, but it gave people the confidence to get into purchasing whiskey. And what that then did is when that kind of becomes that popular by demand and you see everybody drinking Haig, people think it's a bit different. And at that point, people are willing to spend more for differentiation. And at this stage, this is where Haig becomes the pathway to Johnnie Walker. Haig became the introduction to build confidence for people to move forward onto Johnnie Walker. They use their data to drive their creativity and their next business decision. Genius. Now, the final example before we start to bring this talk to a conclusion today was actually one of our closest clients, Ascot Racecourse. And this was a very big deep dive project for a number of years. Ascot Racecourse, you don't know, is one of the premium and most prestigious racecourses in the UK. It's owned actually by the royal family who attend every single year. Now, the Ascot proposition for many, many decades has been focused around their heritage and their history, as many brands who've been training for a long time do. Their focus was around betting and odds. It was around horse breeds and studs. It was around the terrain, the jockeys, the trainers and statistics. And that was their perceived perception for many years. And it worked for many, many years because consumer demand and consumer expectation was met at that time. But today is a new world and tomorrow is even newer. Now, when we walked into Ascot, we had to challenge this, which was not an easy task, as you can imagine, with a brand with so much heritage. Now, we challenged this way of thinking because Ascot's understanding of their audience before we look into their data was that their audience are competitive by nature. They're there because they are interested in the very best horses from Australia, Dubai. People are big gamblers. They know how to bet on horses. And their emotions are the fact that they are confident, but their desire is to be entertained. Their ambition is to see the world's best racing. Their worry of the day isn't winning. Now, bear in mind that was the profile that Ascot had built around their customer. And for many years, this has worked. But in reality, when we start to lock that data and the profile of who actually goes to Ascot now, 42% didn't know how to bet on horses. Even better, 61% bet by a horse's name. So if we see the name Golden Balls, that is the horse that we're going for. We're not going to go for any other than that. To get the odds, I want that name. And that we're engaging at Ascot, which shows the clear movement and progression of how their profile has changed so much. Now, what did we really discover through the data and deep diving into that? This is what the data told us, the real Ascot customer. Customers before a race day were actually incredibly nervous and anxious because they'd never been to a horse race before. Their emotion, and their only emotion, was the fact that they hoped they got value for money. Their ambition was to enjoy themselves, and the biggest worry was what to wear. Do I wear a top hat? Do I wear stilettos? Do I wear heels? Please, I don't know. These are the worries that people had. So what did that lead us on to? The real Ascot proposition was not as we anticipated. The real Ascot ambition was to be with friends and to make memories. The real Ascot proposition was to be somebody else for the day and to step into a new world, to break away from real life, to drink, to have a good time, and to experience. Betting horses weren't the focus of the customer. 70% of consumers were more worried about the weather than anything else, and 86% were there to enjoy the hospitality. So, how did this change Ascot's creativity going forward? It changed it with their latest campaign, which was launched. Now, if you look at what's at the forefront and you look at what's at the rear, for the first time in decades, lifestyle was at the focus point. The horses are in the background. And it's not to say the horses aren't important, but what Ascot's proposition is, it's confident the horse racing will take care of itself. And the demographic that are there for horse race will focus on that. Everybody else will get what they came for, the afternoon tea. People are dressed, people are looking classy and smart and being somebody else for the day. It completely changed their creative output in order to meet consumer advancement. And this campaign engaged with audiences in a completely new way. It allowed us to explore technology that they didn't even know. Before a race day, people could download the app. The weather would update them when it's going to be raining. If it is raining, we recommend you wear flats, not heels. We built a race day concierge feature where people can be supported with where to go, what to do, don't miss out. Do you have any concerns? We look at things like parking, how to get there. Are you traveling by bus, train, car? If you are, book your parking before you get there. We're not focused on our product. We are focused on you as a consumer. Anxiety we can think of. Now, what did this do? What was the output of this? We transformed the Ascot proposition working directly with Ascot. We had a 46% increase on online revenue, 32% increase in conversions, 8% average order value increase, because when we were upselling items to customers, it was based on knowing them. Before you get there, why not have a picnic hamper ready before you arrive? Before you book your parking, so the stress is out of the way. I don't feel like you're selling to me. I feel like you're helping me. 428% increase in data opt-in. Now, what that says out of everything is the most important statistic, because what that statistic says, I trust you. I trust you, and I want to engage with you, and I want a relationship with you. Business is transactional, relationships are eternal. And that's why human-centered creativity crafted around data allows us to craft our strategies in much more intelligent ways to meet consumer demand. So what would I love for you guys to take away from today? Consumers have advanced with their desires and needs, okay? Brands need to keep up. The question you've got to ask, have you advanced? Not have you spent more, not have you, launched more channels than you have before. Have you advanced with their demand? Consumers want more from you. Find out what it is and give it to them. Craft your creativity around your data. Thank you for today. Again, my name has been Jake Welsh, Executive Creative Director at Dept. Again, please never stop advancing. And again, we are here for any questions if you want to write them in the message column, and we'll get back to you, no problems. Thank you again.